So Gus Bradley, not Ken Wisenhunt, will be the defensive coordinator in Las Vegas. They had the Mike Zimmer, Paul Gunther approach. So, here we are. Seattle scheme, Chris. Do they have the players to pull off the Seattle scheme?
Well, no, they have a lot of that's where the Raiders got to spend their whole offseason on the defensive side of the ball. They got to improve their defensive line. They still got a little work in their secondary there. I mean, that's really a big issue for them as a team. But Gus Bradley, he's a phenomenal coach. And yes, you've heard me. I've had my issues with that Seattle scheme. I do think it's a little too predictable at times. But I'll say this, Mike. One thing I saw throughout the year this year, Seattle's scheme people realized it. They realized it this year. They did. Seattle, specifically the Seattle Seahawks, played more variety of defenses than I've ever seen them play in the Pete Carroll era. So they've realized it too. And that goes for, some of the other defensive schemes like that out there as well. And of course, Gus Bradley, he's really the inventor of this defensive scheme. I mean, this scheme and what he did started in Tampa with John Gruden, with Monty Kiffin. Pete Carroll used to come down there as the USC head coach and visit us in the spring to get a few ideas for his own defense. And then, Pete got the job at Seattle and, of course, called the people he knows. And he knew a lot of people in Tampa, and Gus ended his way up there. But Gus, extremely smart, knows John Gruden, got a great way about him, energy, everything like that, and their defense has stunk through the Gruden era. So I think this will really work for them and help them out. But they got to help the players on the field, too. They need more players on the field is what I'm saying.
Well, and that's the key, and we've seen how teams like the Panthers last year devoted their entire draft to the defensive side of the ball, and maybe that's just what the Raiders need to do. When you have a great offensive head coach and you've got the pieces you need on that side of the ball, you can't neglect the defense. And that's one of the things that was pointed out to me after Paul Gunther was fired. All of the resources devoted in 2020 to the offensive side of the ball, free agency money, and draft picks. What do you expect your defense to be if you're not going to make the appropriate investment in the players on that side of the ball? It's going to suffer, and now they've got to do what they can because that's what's holding them back. Especially this idea that the only way to beat the Chiefs is to outscore them. There's some merit to that, but you still have to have a defense against other teams. You can't just lay down against the rest of the teams on your schedule just because your attitude toward Kansas City is we're never going to hold them under 30, so let's focus on scoring 40.
Well, and Kansas City's defense is no cupcake. You're not just guaranteed to just, dominate them for 30 or 40 either. So you better have some sort of a defense, right, to where maybe you can beat, Kansas City 27-24, something along those lines. But definitely, it can't just be all about the offense and shooting it out. And I think this is a marriage that makes a lot of sense. But the big thing will be, especially defensive linemen. That's where the Raiders have really whiffed. They have nobody on that side of the line of scrimmage on that defensive front four that you worry about in the slightest bit. Max Crosby's really good, but he's not really good to where you go, we got to double him or chip the back on him or do anything like that. They don't have one difference maker or game plan changer on that front. And, to what you were saying, that's what they got to do. They got to invest heavily on that this offseason.
We've talked about the Andy Reid coaching tree and how it's kicked out Doug Peterson, Matt Nagy, and we're waiting for Eric Bieniemy to get his chance. Pete Carroll had that same thing going in the heyday of the Seahawks. It was Gus Bradley. Then it was Dan Quinn.
Right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.